Welcome to A Word of the Wise. My name is Doug Ebertowski. Many years ago, I heard a lesson. Notice I said heard. And over the years, I've understood this lesson on a deeper and deeper level. We need to remember that hearing something doesn't always necessarily mean that we've learned it yet. But what I heard was that life is really a process of learning and then unlearning and then relearning. And I believe that there's kind of an innate propensity deep within every person to look for the key, if you will, to finally arrive in life. Let's talk about that. It's natural for us as humans to long to try to find out answers to deep questions or to search for solutions to our longings for, say, significance or meaning. And almost as though, we're searching for this key to life that will lead us to a place where we can finally, have it all together to put life and our unique expression of our human existence, our understanding of the world around us into this nice, tidy little package. That idea is pretty enticing, but if that's our motive, whether it's hidden or realized, it can kind of set us up for a bit of frustration. You ever meet that person, or better yet, listen to that speaker or that teacher, and they're kind of like, yeah, at one time I had problems and I didn't know everything, but then I had this, epiphany, and now I've got it all together and I've got it all figured out, right? Yeah, that ain't real. Sorry. That's why I clearly say for myself, I'm still in process. That's just not a reality. We don't do that. I truly believe that a healthy life is one that's moving forward. No question about it. We should look for answers and pursue a more whole life. However, we don't ever fully arrive to a place where, life is neat and tidy and free from change and opportunities to grow. That's just not a reality, right? A life that's curious, that's examining and learning, that's a healthy life. Does that mean that we don't have any convictions or values or beliefs that we hold to? Of course not. But some of the greatest wisdom is evident in the life of an individual who holds to a conviction, but is still, not only willing, but eager to learn. The kind of person or the kind of people that are open to have their belief systems challenged to see if it holds water or if it needs to grow or to change. So how do we do that? Many years ago, I was, of course, a young man and had a friend who was an elderly gentleman. And we would talk, and he would share little bits of wisdom with me that he had learned over the years. And this gentleman has passed now, but some of the words that he shared with me still ring in my head. At one time, he said to me these words in kind of a slow tone: Doug, I've discovered that life is a process of learning, and then unlearning and then relearning. And I think I'm in the relearning stage. And I thought to myself, what? This old guy, he's still relearning at his age. And I thought, at that moment, I thought, well, I'm definitely going to do better than that. I'll have things figured out at a far younger age than him. But, without a doubt, time has confirmed for me that life is a process of learning and then unlearning and then relearning. This friend's experience has proved to be true to me in more ways than one. This idea of learning, unlearning, and relearning, it may sound elementary, like, oh, yeah, I know that. But, how often these things we think are obvious aren't really so obvious. So, what does all of this learning and unlearning and relearning mean? It could be said that at any given time, we're always in a repeating cycle of learning, unlearning, and relearning in different facets of our life. Each season or time of life holds its own expression of learning and unlearning and relearning. However, I believe that life as a whole has broader phases. In our young years, we learn a life and a worldview, but as we grow older, we can find ourselves in a phase where we begin to re examine some of those views that we hold. And, finally, in our later years, we can gain a pretty profound wisdom in relearning, that we're maybe not so privy to in our younger years. Of course, learning is a normal part of any life, right? If we're in tune to life and what's going on around us, we're going to be constantly exposed to opportunities to learn. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has a belief system. It's how you filter experiences, it's how you understand yourself and what's going on around you, people we encounter, circumstances, pain, failures, success, desire, fulfillment, all attribute to our learning. So it's natural for us to adapt to a system of belief that makes us the most comfortable, right? Or supports our emotional disposition about life. At times, those beliefs that fit our comfort are good, and at times they're unhealthy or perhaps even destructive. For example, viewing life through a lens of bitterness may kind of satisfy some kind of misguided comfort level in me, so I can nurse an old wound. But that's going to be that's not going to be constructive for me or anyone else on a long term basis. So sometimes our belief systems are, for the most part, true and correct, and sometimes they're not. And this is where unlearning comes in. What can be concerning is, people that who never honestly really take time to consider if what they believe is true, if it bears some scrutiny. If a person is not secure enough to have their understanding or their belief systems challenged, it makes step two extremely difficult. Unlearning can be challenging because we may have to be willing to revisit how we viewed something, perhaps even admit to ourselves that we've had a misunderstanding, or even possibly we've been playing wrong on something, and may need to either partially or maybe even completely have some sort of paradigm adjustment. In some cases, we may have to admit that we've gotten suckered into a worldview that's kind of based on some lies. And this is where our own personal insecurities and our own anxieties buried deep within us come in. They can cause us to avoid unlearning. And too often, there are beliefs or interpretations or some understanding that we've built maybe part or maybe even all of our lives upon that get challenged and can be intimidating for us at minimum, or even terrifying to some to really face that and deal with that. Unlearning does not mean that everything I believe is incorrect or has to be discarded. What it does mean is that perhaps our belief system, it may have elements of truth, but it also may have some questionable interpretations added in, either from, misunderstandings or pressures from others to, kind of adapt and conform, or, our own desire to maybe remain comfortable. If we're unwilling to unlearn, then we just keep adding, new information on top of old misunderstanding. This can get messy and can really cause us to be maybe even more confused. My encouragement is to take some time to think deeply and be open. Maybe what you've been building on is true and it produces good and healthy results in your life. Perhaps there are areas that just don't add up, though, right? So be brave, let those things go, and be willing to grow. Which brings us to relearning. This can be a bit of a paradox. It can be both refreshing and painful at the same time. At times, painful because it stretches us. Should I feel guilty? Does this fit me? Am I being disingenuous? What about the pressures from those around me who expect me to think a certain way? Questions like these can come, and we have to be willing to work through them. But relearning can also be refreshing. We can find ourselves in a time of feeling kind of a weight lifted from our shoulders, perhaps a weight of pressure to feel or believe a certain way that's been expected of us because, that's just who we were. But often this relearning brings a new sense of maybe life and direction, or perhaps settledness or purpose or clarity. So go ahead, be willing to let go and be eager to relearn. Thanks for joining me today for A Word to the Wise. Once again, my name is Doug Ebertowski. If this has been helpful for you, maybe consider subscribing and even liking the video. Also, connect with me over on my website, awordtothewise.co.co. Love to stay connected with you on a regular basis. Until next time, be wise.